Right. Looks like we're live on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. I'll just wait for this other thing to come up and I'll turn it over to Iris to pray us in. There we go. Yay. All right. Uh, good morning, everybody. Iris, would you like to pray us in, please?
Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. And I'm going to pray us in. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Iris. How's everybody doing this morning? Good to see you all here. Joyful, joyful, joyful. So yeah, let's look at our book. And we're actually, I think we may have read the first paragraph last week, but I think we will read it again today.
Good plan.
So we are in Judgment and the Authority Problem. Who would like to read the first paragraph? Let's see, Iris, please go ahead, my dear.
Okay, judgment and the authority problem. We have already discussed the last judgment, but in insufficient detail. After the last judgment, there will be no more. Judgment is symbolic because beyond perception, there is no judgment. When the Bible says judge not, that ye be not judged, quote, it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own. Yeah. So this is a very interesting paragraph. So I can remember two things like that come to mind. The first point is that like everything in the thinking mind, in the mental program, in the mind program, is in the mind program is a judgment. Everything, even if it's good, a good, bad, right, wrong, should be, shouldn't be. Everything in the mind that is thinking is a judgment. And that judgment is based on a very limited idea, like a limited idea of whatever it has learned from the past, quote, and whatever it thinks about the future, quote. And it's not able to be in the now. It's just not. It's just like a program, like Rafi would call it, like in the release technique, like a program, like just something that's gone crazy, by like just a program, like a computer program. And so that is like the what comes to mind, because I've been thinking about that, quote, thinking. And then the second thing that comes to mind is like when I would see something like oh, I see it every day, like, oh, that person should be, quote, nicer, or that person should not be in a hurry, and they should be more patient. Like those types of thoughts are like like a judgment on, quote, that person, quote, whoever that is. But those thoughts are, I'm beginning to see that they're coming from me. They're me. They're not them. It's to do with me. And like it reminds me of like Byron Katie, and she says like, is that really true that that person should be more patient, or is it that I should be more patient and I should not be in a hurry or whatever? Like, excuse me. Like it's like I would really love to understand this word projection. Like, you know, what I'm seeing out there is a projection of whatever is in my own mind. It's got nothing to do with anything going out there. It's got everything to do with whatever is going on in my own mind. And the only thing I can do with that is to, quote, let go. And I'll hand back to Lynn.
Thank you, Iris. Yeah, that was beautiful. Of course, that's my own projection, because my perception is that, whatever Iris says is love. And so, the idea of projection makes perception is, a part of, my favorite lesson. Projection makes perception. So whatever I see is what I think it is. So, if I've been told that, people who have long hair and wear dresses are women, then I'm going to project that on. If I see you having long hair and wearing a dress, I'm going to think you're a woman. If I see you having short hair and wearing jeans, I don't know what to think because I already have my own idea of what you should be, or what you are based on the appearance. So and it could be an appearance, it could be a belief, it could be a you know a position, a job, or whatever it is. Whatever I perceive that to be, he's the king. Oh, okay, so if he's the king, then I have all these stories in my mind about what he should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And so if I see him doing something outside of what my story is, I'm going to not see him as the king. I'm going to see him as something else, whatever my story tells me. So, a newborn baby doesn't know the difference between a king and a horse, or a dog, or the doctor. So to someone who has no perception, there's nothing for them to project. And we only project when we have a perception. So, this is, to me, then, the last judgment is when I just stop, stop the perception, stop looking and thinking that something is something because of what I believe it should be. And that's why he says judgment is symbolic, because beyond perception, there is no judgment. If I don't, if I'm completely blind, I would not be able to tell what color your skin was, how tall you were, unless I touched you and, felt your body or whatever. I would have no perception of you other than whatever it is that's in my mind that you are. And I could make that anything. A blind person, could make you look like anything because they don't know what anything looks like and don't even know what look like is if they've never had vision before. So I don't know if that makes any sense, or if anybody else. I see Dove has his hand up. Go ahead, Dove. Please explain and unmute yourself.
Okay. So I was listening to what you were saying, and what it brought up for me is whenever you value something that you are judging, which basically comes from perception. Perception, I think that's mentioned right here in the first paragraph. Perception sees things as they are not. Uh, it kind of reminds me of exactly why Jesus is able to have the course start out with lesson one and lesson two. And lesson one, as most people know, is what I think is the whole course. Once you realize what he's saying, and the course basically is, come on, happy once to get into the act. The course is saying that nothing I see here means anything. Well, that's only because perception doesn't show you the truth. Perception is not knowledge. So if you're valuing perception, you have no chance of ever understanding what is truly valuable. You're valuing the valueless, which comes from my birthday lesson 133. If I value what is valueless, I don't know really what's valuable. So what's valuable belongs to me. That's the knowledge, but perception overrides knowledge because I have no awareness of knowledge if I use my body's eyes and ears and brain to give meaning to the meaningless. So that's my share. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? Rafi, go ahead.
Yeah, I just on what Dove just said. Everything has no meaning except the meaning I give it. Everything out there, as Robert Adams says, is egoless. I mean, the only truth is infinite, supreme, absolute, infinite being, God, bliss, love. That's the reality. As soon as we see something out there, the mind is going to start evaluating it or judging it. It's going to see that perception as a thing that has cause and effect, which is another word for karma, and all the other stuff. And then it's going to get embroiled into judging whether it's got any value, whether I can get anything out of it, whether I have to protect myself from it. And it just begins to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger and more and more and more conflicted and confusing, and none of it's real. And what we're looking at is a dream that never was, and it's perfect. Everything is here to serve. Mind can't see, ego mind can't see it that way. And since the ego mind isn't what we are, and that's important, I keep reminding me, I'm not my mind, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not an ego, and I'm not feelings, I'm not thoughts, none of that stuff is reality. Then whatever judgment it makes, I can dismiss immediately. Or just say, like a thought comes, what is that thought for? I have no idea. And it just evolves, it's meaningless. And it just dissolves. And if a feeling comes up saying, oh, good, the feeling came up to leave, welcome the feeling, let the feeling go. Um, so that's pretty much this whole paragraph says so much that I had to go back and read it twice to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. And and who was the I that was going to leave anything out? That I isn't real either. Where did that I come from? What's the source of that I? Who is that I? What is that I? How did what did it become? Where did it begin? And the more I do that, the quieter everything gets. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Rafi. That's, yeah, beautiful, perfect and beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's all in my own mind. So he says, if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own. It's because it's my perception. So if I'm looking at whatever it is I judge in my brother, I'm judging in myself because I'm the only thing that's here. You know, these brothers that I'm judging are projections of my thinking. So And it's not that they're not really people there, because, but what I see is my story of. I see my story of Dove. I see my story of Rafi. I see my story of Iris. I see my story of Regis. I see my story of Ricky. I see my story of all these, and I can never see them, who they really are, as long as I'm looking at my story. So, yeah, thank you, everyone. So, anybody want to read paragraph 2? It's kind of a longer one, but we'll move it down for you.
I can do it. All right, go ahead, Rafi, go.
No, go ahead. I like listening to you read.
Okay. 2, the choice, the choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of the loss of peace. Wow, he puts it right up front. If you're feeling confused, upset, angry, it's only because I'm judging. The judgment is the process on which perception but not knowledge rests. So that's exactly what I said earlier. As long as you perceive, you cannot know. Knowledge does not have anything to do with the perception of the mind body called Dove. Dove is a perceiver. Knowledge comes from above, just like it says in that lesson 135. A healed mind doesn't plan, it receives wisdom from above. I have discussed this before in terms of the selectivity of perception, pointing out that evaluation is this obvious prerequisite. Pointing out that evaluation, selectivity of perception. Let's continue. Judgment always involves rejection. Woo! That's a biggie. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4 word sentence. Whenever you hear Jesus with a 2, 3, 4, 5 word sentence, he's asking you to listen. It's not a run-on iambic pentameter sentence. Judgment always, keyword, involves rejection. Woo! Wow. It never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged, whether in you or in others. Yes, exactly what I put on the chat just now. Whatever I say about anyone is what I'm saying about myself. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about Rafi or Lynn or anyone. I'm talking about myself. You can't know anything about anyone except what you know about yourself. What has been perceived and rejected or judged and found wanting remains in your mind because it has been perceived. Yeah, that's pretty much how we keep our guilt intact, is we see guilt in others. That's exactly what projection makes perception is all about. And the only purpose for accepting the atonement, which is our only purpose in this world, is our only responsibility, I should say, in this world, is to accept the atonement, is to remove the guilt, which started it all because it was the belief, the lie of separation, which never happened. What has been perceived and rejected or judged and found wanting remains in your mind because it has been perceived. One of the illusions from which you suffer is the belief that what you judged against has no effect, but it does. As soon as you judge against something, you have judged against yourself. You are literally making guilt real, and guilt demands punishment. And oh yeah, maybe that person should be punished, they should go to prison. But who is in prison? The guy that's over there behind bars, or Dove, who sees guilt as real? You evidently do not believe this, or you would not have judged against it. In the end, it doesn't matter whether your judgment is right or wrong. That's exactly what he means when he says, do you want to be right at the expense of someone else being wrong? Or do you want to be happy? Choose one. You can't have both. Either way, you're placing your belief in the unreal. This cannot be avoided in any type of judgment because it implies the belief, the lie that reality is yours to select from. And he says, I can sum up this 1,300 pages in 3 lines. What's real can't be threatened. What's unreal doesn't even exist. Herein lies the peace of God. He just says the same thing over and over again in 1,000 different ways. Isn't that wonderful? This cannot be avoided in any type of judgment because it implies the lie that reality is yours to select from. And I'm sorry, Charlie, reality is not mine to select from. Thank you very much. Love you all. Blessings.
Wow. Thank you, Dove. Yeah, beautiful. Excuse me, I'm coughing. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Rafi.
Okay, let's go back to that 4-word sentence that was so profound. That's okay. I can see it. Judgment always involves rejection. That rejection is automatic resistance. That's the knee-jerk reaction that the ego mind always has. Resist first, then start evaluating to see whether or not it's something I want or it's something I got to protect myself from. Still projections, still projections, still projections. The world is real and I got to figure out a way to handle it. First thing first, resist until I can understand what's happening. Well, Lester used to say, if you got rid of all your resistance, you could go free, be self-realized almost instantly. Because that's the first reaction to everything. Because while it judges whether it's something I want or something I got to protect myself from. And I let go of rejection and resistance constantly because I can always feel it. It always shows up in my gut or in my shoulder, so I know it's there. I'm gonna thank you for showing up, love it, and let it go, but and get till I get to the point where it's quiet. But it never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged. If you're looking at something as positive and negative, and positive or negative, then you're still in ego judgment. There's the duality that's ego: good, bad, up, down, happy, sad, rich, poor. Okay, so those 2 sentences are incredibly powerful and pretty much spoke volumes to me. I thank you. If there's something else, I'll come back later. But that's all I wanted to say now.
All right. Thank you so much. And I just realized that people on the radio can hear me coughing. So I'm sorry for that. The microphone. So thank you so much for that, Rafi. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? Really, it is just all about, and I love that judgment always involves rejection. It really means that, I can't just judge for things because the implication is I'm judging against something. So always there's an against if I'm in judgment. So the place to be is in non-judgment and not even caring basically about anything that's outside of my thought system. This is why we were talking earlier about politics or religion or whatever. If I'm saying I wish one was better, one is better than the other, I want one to be here and the other one not to be, any of those things, I'm really judging against and putting myself, placing my belief in the unreal. And none of it is real. So all these things I have opinions about are the unreal. And why would I want to do that? It is not helpful to me or anyone else. Rafi, please go ahead.
If I could stay aware enough, and I ask myself constantly, am I present in this moment or am I aware in this moment? the word comes up as something like that to deal with, the first thing I'll go to, or one of the first things I'll go to, is what would Jesus do? Well, what would Jesus do would be to love immediately, love unconditionally. The answer to all problems, the answer to the total solution is sitting right there. There are no problems, there's only that solution. Just love all equally, love myself, love. And all of a sudden, everything else starts to dissolve. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, that's it. Everything else dissolves. And that's really where we're going. Iris, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, this is very interesting because it just makes me think that it just helps me to be more aware of when it's happening. Like it will happen, but I think the key is to be aware when that is happening and not to fall into the trap of like absolutely believing that whatever it is that I'm thinking is true. And like, so that's one point. And then the second point is it uh really made sense to me after ages that when I'm looking at my brother and I'm thinking that my brother is like this or this is this, and what Lynn was sharing about that, I'm not looking at my brother at all. It's like I'm not seeing anything about my brother. I'm just seeing my thoughts about him, and and those thoughts mean nothing because they are not true, they're not real. And that's why my brother, what I think about my brother is a projection about whatever is going on in my own mind. And I think an awareness of this will is very helpful to free me from the distress that I feel when I judge, when I don't even know that I'm judging. And somewhere in the course, there is that line that says that you don't realize the tremendous peace that will come to me when I don't judge. And something like that. And there's the other line that you think you're feeling tired, but the strain of constant judgment is tiring because it takes up our force. Our force gets tied up in this believing these ideas that are not true. And that's really something that's amazing. That's lesson 1 and 2. And like, yeah, that it really makes sense to me now. And I'll hand back to Lynn.
Yeah, that really makes sense to me too. And how beautiful that is to come to that realization there and to recognize that, the whole thing of I'm only doing it to myself is the whole thing. What I judge in my brother, I'm judging in myself. What I'm afraid of in my brother, I'm afraid of in myself. It can't be any other way. So I love that. Thank you so much for that, Iris. And thank you, Rafi and Dove as well. Does anybody else have any thoughts about this paragraph? So it really is a big how to, that all of this judgment that we do is really putting us in the first place. We're the ones who think that we know and can actually have the power or ability to decide what is good and what is not. And, the fact that we even have an idea that something is good and something is not is, the idea of judgment, which is painful. it is not only wearying, as you said, Iris, it's painful. It hurts. It hurts me to hurt you. It hurts me to hate you. These are things that, hate, is like acid. It'll destroy its container. That's what we are. Unless you're a certain kind, like stainless steel or just kidding. Anyway, anybody else have anything on this particular paragraph? So we've talked about, oh, and you know what, Iris? You're gonna laugh. That's the next paragraph. Who would like to read paragraph 3?
I'll read it.
Great, thank you, Rafi.
3. You have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. Amen. When you recognize what you are and what your brothers are, you will realize that judging them in any way is without meaning and really self destructive. In fact, their meaning is lost to you precisely because you are judging them. You're seeing them as people instead of infinite divine love, which is what we really are. All uncertainty comes from the belief that you are under the coercion of judgment. You do not need judgment to organize your life, and you certainly do not need it to organize yourself. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended, and this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception. Hello. I don't know how it could be said. I mean, it's stated so beautifully right there.
Yeah, thank you, Rafi. I'm just laughing because this is exactly what I was just talking about. That when we can exist or experience without judgment, it actually is a peaceful thing. If I don't have any investment in the outcome, then it's like going to a horse race. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a horse race. I've been to a lot of them because my stepdad and my brother-in-law spent days at the track, and I used to have to go and hang out at the track, so I got to see all the horses, and that was all lovely. And they had investment in the horses, which ones were running good today, which ones are, healthy, who has a hurt, whatever. They're talking to the groomers, they're talking to the jockeys, they're figuring out what their bets are going to be. Me, I'm enjoying being around the horses. I'm enjoying being at the track. I loved it. And horse track, dog track, both we spent lots of time at. But uh, watching the race, excited about the race, having fun watching the race, seeing the horses out there running, their jockeys, all the excitement of the crowd, but having no investment in which horse won because I didn't have a bet and all the horses were just the same to me. So I was having a great time at the horse race. My stepdad and my brother-in-law, on the other hand, were, excited, upset, afraid, going through all kinds of emotions. And if their horse won, like one time, the horse won the trifecta, and they they had all these, all this money. They went home and threw it all over. Look, here we won. Such excitement. And to me, it was all the same because it was watching the horses. That was all, being at the track. So, without judgment, I was in joy all the time. If I had been invested in the race, I might have been upset or excited because of that. I was just happy when they were happy. So anyway, I don't know why that idea of the horse race came up in my mind, but that's exactly the kind of thing it is. It is a horse race. And we're investing in our horses one way or the other. If we decide not to invest in the horse and just enjoy being at the track, then there's nothing more beautiful. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Or about Lynn hanging out with a bunch of gambling folks? All right. Well, let's move on to paragraph 4 there. Who would like to read paragraph 4?
Can I read this one too?
Sure, absolutely.
Because the first sentence just jumped off the page at me. You are very fearful of everything you have perceived, but have refused to accept. And I say it to myself all the time, the power of acceptance. Yeah, and to make sure I'm in acceptance, I do what one of my instructors always taught me. Just say yes, acceptance, acceptance, yes, acceptance, yes, acceptance, yes. And I'm in acceptance. And then everything that's happening is perfectly okay. And I'm coming from a place of loving unconditionally. And whatever unfolds is exactly what's supposed to be happening. And then there's no judgment of it because it's all there for my benefit. You believe that because you have refused to accept it, you have lost control over it. That is why you see it in nightmares or in pleasant disguises in what seems to be your happier dreams. Nothing that you have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It is not dangerous in itself, but you have made it seem dangerous to you. And there's that ego victim mentality again. Got to be on guard constantly, 24/7. Something terrible could happen. And and there's the insanity. But if you step back, if I step back and look at it from an acceptance point of view, from a witnessing point of view, from the observer, then it has absolutely no effect, or it all just falls away. What's all this for? I don't know. What's the point of it? It has no point. Boom, and it goes. And then if a feeling comes up, welcome the feeling. It's either wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting to be safe, and let it go.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, go ahead, Dov. Thank you, Rafi.
Yeah, thanks, Rafi. I just put in the chat, my favorite paragraph in the entire Course in Miracles, which is all about acceptance. I put in the chat. This is from lesson 135, paragraph 18. He says, what could you not accept? In other words, he's telling you, if you resist anything, you're out of your mind. He says, what can't you accept if you knew that everything, he's not saying most things, he said everything that happens, all events, yeah, even the ones that you say, how did that happen? I don't like that. Yes, that's exactly part of why can't you accept all events, past, present, and even to come, because they're gently planned by one, capital O, whose, capital W, only purpose is your good. So the world is a classroom. We come here to learn lessons. That's the only reason. I was just listening to Ken Rapnick today. His workshop, which is a very long one, it's going on 4 or 5 days now. I listen to him every single morning, and I record, and this one is recorded as always. And what he says, the only reason for being here is we come here to learn lessons. There's no other reason. So if I said, well, I want to learn that lesson, you can be sure that the ego is talking to you. I resist that. I don't want to learn that shit. My shit is better than that shit. That's the ego, always saying that me is better than that. And he said, wait a minute, we're all here for the same purpose. we're all here. We share the same interests. That's what a teacher of God is. One who sees that his interest and another interest is not different, it's the same. So we're here to learn lessons. And if something feels like, well, it should have happened to me. Well, exactly. That's the ego complaining. The ego will always complain because the ego is never happy because it thinks it's always right. You got to laugh. I don't want to just keep going with it. I can just keep going and go. That's it.
Yeah, you could. And you know what this is reminding me of as you're talking, and you know that the reason I keep bringing this up is because this is the lesson that's right now is the election, what happened in the election. Um, we've perceived it, but we've refused to accept it. You know, we're not accepting, you know, what happened. We're saying, oh, it shouldn't have happened. It should have happened a different way, you know, or some people are saying it should happen this way and it's the best thing. But the reality, if I'm not accepting it, then I think it's going to hurt me.
Um,
And that's why I see it in my nightmares, or in pleasant disguises and what seem to be my happier dreams. Nothing that I have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It's not dangerous in itself, but I have made it seem dangerous. And that's it. You know, once you recognize that it doesn't matter what's happened, you know, your dog got run over by a car, oh my gosh, you know, I'm gonna reject that thought. I'm gonna cry and mourn. I'm gonna blame and guilt. I'm gonna do all these different things. You know, if I just accept it, this is what happened, and you know, it's a part of my dream. I can let go of the angst and the anger and the fear that comes from that lack of acceptance. And you know, we see this happen all the time. You know, we go our entire lifetime rejecting something that happened to us when we were a child, rejecting something that happened to us when we were in school, rejecting something that happened to us when we were married to a different person or the same person. And all that rejection is doing is making it seem like things can go wrong and I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Where I just accepted it, you know, I recognize that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. So, you know, I realized this morning when I think when you Dub, or someone was talking, you know, this is what I want on my tombstone. Herein lies the peace of God. Herein lies the peace of God. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yeah, let's just for a second assume that this dream that we're looking at is real. All right, now you had an election. You don't agree with the results. I wish you would take us about, well, you're going to let go of the water control feeling that comes with that. But the other thing is, if this dream, if you look at this world as real, you can come down a couple of very simple things. How is what goes on in that election, whoever gets elected president, how's that going to affect my day-to-day life? Am I still not going to get up in the morning and brush my teeth? Am I still not going to have breakfast? Am I still not, for me, am I still not going to go volunteer and read for the kids? Am I going to stop reading? I mean, writing? Am I going to stop performing? Am I going to stop putting self-realization, freedom, imperturbable peace, whatever you want to call that? Is that going to stop me from making that purpose? I'm making that my only purpose. Hell no. So whatever goes on, let it go on. What's the lesson it taught me? I'm not letting it affect me. If I'm letting it affect me and I'm reacting to it, then I got some work to do. Then I got stuff in my mind to clean out. And so there's the lesson it's teaching me. But if I look at it and it has no effect on me, if I'm just allowing it to, and we're right back into acceptance again, how is that going to affect that? When this meeting is over, I got a couple of phone calls to make, and then I'm going to take care of this, take care of that, take care of this. And in that taking care of, the other part of that that comes even more strongly is that whatever's going on, it's not me, but the Father that worked through me. Okay, so whatever it is, I just turn it over to my infinite beingness and know it'll be perfect. And however it evolves, it's only for my benefit. Because in the end, everything is here for me and happening for me, not to me. And there's no individual me. That's the other part of it. So I love this paragraph. Thanks so much for letting me share.
Thank you, Rafi. Yeah, what's that have to do with me? Or so what? Or so? Whatever. Dove, please go ahead.
Okay, so the reason that we don't accept, by the way, as I see it, is we don't trust. It really gets down to that. If I live in fear, how the hell am I supposed to accept anything? Because I mean, why? Because I read it in a book? I mean, hell, man, I got to protect my ass. On the other hand, if you develop trust, and it takes a long time to develop trust, if you read Trust in Manual for Teachers, Section 4, the 10 characteristics of God's teachers, it says literally, the teachers of God have trust in the world. Now, as Rafi says, suppose the world is real. Suppose the world is real. So what? Teachers of God have trust in the world. He says that even though he tells you earlier there is no world. In my favorite birthday lesson, 132, there is no world. This is the central thing this course teaches. But just in case that's not your birthday lesson and you say, well, that's bullshit, man. There is a world. I can kick the tires. I see those SOBs out there. And, why do I have to trust them? They don't trust me. So you get to be right. But as you practice this course, and that's the only reason that the course is out, is to practice it, not to read it. Read it is bullshit. Read it is, well, I read it, but why should I believe it? No, you practice things like nothing I see here means anything. If it means something, I'm the one who's given it all the meaning to, and I'm never upset for the reason I think, and my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world, and a meaningless world engenders fear. Huh? I just said that that's why I'm afraid is things in this world are meaningless and crazy, insane. He uses insane 400 times. So if you're practicing the course instead of just reading the course, you start to recognize that the things that you used to be afraid of don't really mean anything. And if you think they mean something, well, I'm the one who's giving meaning to it. And you start to relax your mind, release your thoughts, Rafi's favorite thing, and let go, let go, let go. Just let it go. And all of a sudden, you're not in the same place you were before. You're actually beginning to open to seeing that there's nothing to fear, which is exactly what Rafi has just said. Nothing to fear. Isn't that lesson number? Oh yeah, it's lesson number. How come you can't come up with that, Dove? It's 48. There's nothing to fear. Notice it follows very closely to 47, and 47 says, God is the strength in which I trust. Now you might say, well, how do I know there's a God? I mean, how do I know he's really there? I can't trust somebody I can't see. Well, you use another word for God. Love is the strength in which, well, I can't love because I'm in fear. Can't you see? Well, that's why you're practicing the course. You really got to laugh when you notice how insane everything in this world is. And the only reason you're doing this course is to become sane. So that paragraph in trust goes like this. The teachers of God have trust in the world because they have recognized that the world is not governed by the bullshit laws of this world, the ego and the crap, but it's governed by a power that is in us, but not of us. Now, until you begin to recognize that you are powerful instead of weak, you are going to be afraid. You have to become as powerful as what love created you as. I mean, that's the same thing he says way up in chapter 21, section 7. What does he say? Can't you see that all of your misery comes from your strange belief that you, the Holy Son of God, is powerless? He's laughing. You got to laugh. You just got to laugh. Back over to you, Lynn.
Yeah, you definitely have to laugh about that one. I love it. Thank you, Dove. Anybody else? Iris, please go ahead. And also, if we have time, you maybe can read the next paragraph, which is what you were just talking about as well. Go ahead, Iris.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Dove. Exactly what Dove shared is what I was thinking about, like the whole week. And it's very interesting because this morning I was doing I was having quiet time, and I realized like a little something about the fear. Like, why is there fear? Oh, I can say, oh, because I think this will happen or this. But why? What is the source of the fear, really? Like, where do all these things come from? All the fears. Like, what is the one single fear? Like, the below the fear. And and I realized that the one single fear below the fear is that God is not real, that I could doubt God, that God is not real. And that is the one single fear. And I'm sure there's something else below that, but it's like that truth is not true. And that is the fear. That's because when God is the strength in which I trust, when there is that 100% certainty, there is no fear. Anything can happen, and there is nothing to fear because this is a fact. And everything is just happening because that's the way it's happening. And like that just made a lot of sense to me. And I just felt like that made sense to me. And the other thing, like the when God is not there, it's like the powerless feeling, the powerlessness. And so this week I've been looking at lesson 320, and I'll just read the title, and it says, "My Father gives all power unto me." We are that. And what Rafi put in the chat, like, this is it. I was thinking about this. Like, God dwells in me, like not out there, not somewhere. Maybe when I pray, then it'll happen, or maybe I'll pray and then God will decide, like, if I'm good. Like all these ideas that I've picked up along the way, like if I'm good, all this stuff. And it's like God dwells in me. And it's like it's up to me. Like, it's just really incredible, amazing, totally amazing. And as well as this other paragraph that Dove reminded us of that's like my favorite paragraph. Like yeah, and I'll hand back to Lynn.
Thank you, Iris. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you so much. Rafi, please go ahead.
What she just said reminded me of something I just read in one of Lester Levenson's books last night. He said the reason why we don't go free, become enlightened, whatever you want to call it, is because we have a deeper, and here comes subconscious, we don't know what's there, subconscious desire to be the body. And if you don't know what's there, you can't bring it up and let it go. And that's what holds so many of us, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what holds us so many of us prisoner to this body mind world game we're playing. But as soon as you can make that subconscious desire to be the body conscious and look at it and come from the point of view of reality, well, we're not the body, it's just a physical, it's just a mental projection. It's there to serve, but it ain't there at all. And it isn't what I am. Then the process becomes simpler, and the journey back to the truth of what I am gets enhanced. Thank you.
Very nice. Thanks, Rafi.
Yeah, go ahead, Dov.
Yeah, so the reason going further on what Lester Levinson said, it becomes, what is my identity? I mean, I like being Dove. I mean, I enjoy Dove, you know. I don't want to lose Dove. And that's exactly what the resistance is in accepting anything the Course is saying. The Course is saying, hey, listen, you're not who you are. And I put on the board, on the chat, and I want to read it because I think it's very powerful. It's happening. Iris was asking, you know, why is this happening? It's happening because you are watching a movie. Now, if you're watching a movie and you become part of the movie, I identify with this person over here, this guy called Dove. You cannot change the movie. You can only change your mind about your. I am not Dove. From an actor in someone else's movie, obviously, I didn't make this movie. It was here before I ever came here. All the books of history are telling me that it's always been here. I just happened to come into the movie. No, I'm sorry, Charlie, it's not true. From an actor in someone else's movie to I am watching the movie, but I'm not the person in the movie. I am awareness of a movie, and that's what he says. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. So awareness has nothing to do with being an actor. Awareness rises above the battleground of, oh, I'm Dove, and I got so many problems I got to work out. No, Dove has no problems except the ones that he believes are true. But that's just a belief system. Not one thing in this world is true. Not one thing in this world is true. That's it.
Thank you, Dove. And yeah, the fact is that in the movie, the actors know the script and they know the story for the most part. You know, sometimes they don't know. I've heard of them being surprised by certain things, but in the movie, the actor knows it's a script, it's a story. The only one who doesn't know that is the person watching the movie, believing that it's actually happening in front of their eyes. It's not happening. Robbie, please go ahead.
Just to build on what Deb said, the Lester also reminded us is that you think that if you go free, if you guys call it, I think, atonement, you get to that self-realization, you're gonna die, you're gonna lose everything. And he said it's quite the opposite, because then you are the all, and you have even more and even more, because everything becomes overly abundant. You don't lose anything. You can't lose the body unless you decide to lose the body. Wasn't Jesus crucified? Didn't he die? And didn't he come back a couple of days later and say, excuse me, I got a few more things I got to take care of? When he died, did he go away? No. And there's been a couple of others. Baba G, for instance, who is somewhere around 800 years old now. And he looks like a guy in his 30s. he decided to stay when he became self-realized. His sister said to him, "You know, you should paraphrasing. You should stick around a little bit because you got a lot to teach." And he said, "Okay." And he stayed in his body. He's surrounded by some of his disciples or people who follow him. He lives someplace in a cave in India somewhere, but he's around 800 years old. He didn't go anywhere. And we don't have to go anywhere. If you want to leave your body, go. What's the difference? It's a dream. But if you got something to contribute to the dream, you can hang around. That's what being infinite is. That's that infinite power of being. That's what God is. And it's so difficult for a mind to absorb all of that, that's why you got to quiet the mind and transcend it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rafi. And yeah, I love that story about Babaji. I also wanted to address real quickly, I know our time is up, but Iris had mentioned something earlier in her talk about not being sure that God's really there, that there really is God. And I've have fallen into that place at some point, excuse me, in my experience where I was like, is there really, am I making this up or is it true? The evidence is in your mind. You know that God is here and you know that God loves you. And that's the thing that we're asking. Does God really love me? Can God really love me? And then we look at all of the things that we think make us guilty or unworthy. And, do we ask, could I love someone who's that guilty? Could I love someone who's that unworthy? Could I be love? And, recognize that, yes, of course you can. And God is, and God does as well. God is here. God is here always. And even in my darkest hour, I have been able to turn to my Father for help. And, the help always came. It came in my heart, it came in my mind, it came in my knowing, and I was not lost, absolutely not lost. Uh, and, now I can look back and say, wow, there was not a moment, there was not a moment in this existence when I have not been wholly loved, wholly cared for, and wholly seen as the beloved child of God. I'm being held in His arms, and I can feel myself being held in the arms of love. And all of us are here in the arms of love with me. So thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone who's joined us. Dove, please go ahead.
Actually, I forgot what I was going to say, but
Okay.
but let me see if I can if I can bring it up. My willingness to just let go of all my beliefs. The word God is God with me. The word God brings up so much questions. How do I know God is real? See, the word love, which is what God is really, God is like a noun. Love is like an isness. Notice that God is, as Ken Wapnick says, if Jesus only said what is true in A Course in Miracles, there's only two words: God is. Everything else you just cease to speak. Everything else is a concept. So the word isness, which we know from our good friend Mandy, meets here every Monday at 10 a.m., Mandy Sulk, isness is your only business, is telling you about the verb. The isness is love. Isness is love. Love always is. There's nothing else but love. But in this world, fear blocks the love, so we live in the dark, when in truth, all there is light. I can go on that subject, but I'll leave it to your imagination.
I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dove. And with that, I want to wish you all a happy week. If you're going to be here this week, we'll be probably here Thanksgiving Day, but Thanksgiving evening, Thursday evening, we will not have our group. Anyway, if you're not going to be back, happy Thanksgiving to you, and we will see you all next week. Love you all.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
We will.